Hello, my name is JJ Baker. We're at Monterroso Gallery on Main Street in Houston, Texas. We're here for my show Closer Than They Appear, which is a presentation of paintings that I've made in the past 2 years. These paintings I call ready-made paintings because they are found objects that I paint onto found surfaces. So like we can see here, we've got 2 bottles that I found on the streets, 2 empty liquor bottles, and then I painted them on these cabinet doors, and both the objects and the cabinet doors were discarded, were being thrown away, so I reclaimed them and then made the paintings on these surfaces. This body of work that I've painted, I started it when I was living in Düsseldorf, Germany. There are some objects that are obviously German. Jägermeister, we do see that in the US, but we know that that is very German. Jack Daniel's a little bit more American. I started the series in Germany. For example, this painting of the dinosaur skeleton plaque. I remember being in Düsseldorf, walking to my studio, and I see a man throwing away this plaque. So I grabbed it, I found the surface, so I painted the dinosaur skeleton onto the surface. As I was painting this, I knew that I wanted to paint it as realistically as possible to sort of create an illusion that you're actually looking at the object on the surface. And that style is known as trompe-l'oeil. It's something that's been used a lot in the history of painting, and that is happening in a lot of the paintings that we see in this show. Here's a more recent painting of the Lego brick. That's a painting that I made in Cincinnati, Ohio, where I currently live. A lot of these paintings become very sculptural, given the surface that I find to paint the piece on. And so this piece, you can see how dimensional it is. And then this one as well, we can see the dimensionality, finding this old cabinet, painting this object into the cabinet, and dealing with the dimensionality of the piece of the surface itself, and then figuring out how to paint the object into that, and again trying to give the illusion that we're looking at an object sitting on top of this surface. A lot of the objects that I've found happen to be children's toys, and so here we see 4 different children's toys. These I found in Alfred, where I was living, and I found these 4 boards, and so it made sense to paint these 4 toys onto the 4 boards. And some of the objects that I found also became sculptures as well. So I do have a couple of bronze sculptures in the show. So some of the small toys, some of the smaller bottles got cast into bronze. So my work became paintings themselves are sculptural, but then some of the works actually became sculptures themselves. Over here on this wall is a good example of how we wanted to curate the show. And when I display these paintings, I like to display them in a non-traditional way. And so Gabby and I decided to hang them in more of a salon style, like you see here. Some of the paintings a little bit higher, some paintings a little bit lower. And I like doing that on the wall, putting these paintings in unexpected places, and it's almost as if the viewer will find these paintings on the wall in a similar way that I found the paintings out in the world, sort of put into unexpected places that you would not normally see them, or maybe that you wouldn't necessarily be looking. And so the work here, this presentation of ready-made paintings that I've made in the past 2 years, is looking at a number of different disparate objects on all of these different surfaces. At first glance, you might not understand the connection between all these different things, but when I start putting them together, we then build a connection. We start stories that live behind these objects, and it's indicative of my experience in these times and places with these different things, but I also want viewers to be able to come in and create their own stories based on the objects that they see here in the show.